Welcome to this incredibly special episode of Running for the Bus, presented by BKDMC and hosted by me, Ben Kelleher. You're joining us live from the 130th Boston Marathon Mile 27 post-race party here in City Hall Plaza. Now, I have just run my first ever Boston Marathon and earned my 6-star medal along the way, and yet my excitement doesn't stop there, thank you, as I'm joined by two fellow runners who are total legends. First up is a two-time Paralympic champion who recently ran his 100th marathon and broke the world record just last week. It is Richard Whitehead, MBE. Thank you so much for being here, Richard, and joining again. Absolutely, it's so lovely to be here with you. And next up is a man who breaks down barriers left, right, and centre by becoming the first deaf 6-star finisher who now holds 4 of these very precious medals, Thomas Eller.
Thank you so much.
Richard, Tom, it is so good to see you both. How are we, having just finished the 130th Boston Marathon?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic day, I think. Obviously, the conditions have been fantastic for running. I was just commenting that everybody came out to support today, which is incredible. And I think one thing about Boston that makes it so special is it's that point-to-point race. Yeah. So you're seeing people maybe once or twice on that journey, and people really want to get behind every runner. I've had so much support via socials, and they've really kind of said how incredible the runners were today. And I think the runners do really appreciate that as well. You see so many, obviously, great running times by the male and female athletes, elite athletes, as well as obviously everybody else running personal best and PRs, obviously today, which is incredible. And I think when a city gets really behind the event, it becomes very special. And I know a lot of runners that have run today will have the Boston Marathon on their calendar every year now, because 1, they've run well, 2, they've had a great experience, and 3, they've obviously ran a PR.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it's definitely the case that, like, out there on the course, you could see for the crowd and for the people supporting it, it was almost like it was their favourite day of the year as well. Like, it was like they've been waiting for it. They were cheering you on. It felt so special to go through the different parts of the course.
Yeah, and obviously lots of different age groups of people as well on the course that were maybe thinking about kind of starting their own running journey at some point. Yeah. And I think that's, again, what's really special about running and the inclusivity of running. You see, obviously, people from lots of different communities running, but also the crowd, when they're watching, they might actually not think running or movement is for them. Then all of a sudden they see somebody that they can really relate to, that can break down some of those barriers for them. Yeah. And then they start on their journey next year. So I met a girl from Brazil that she said to me, she said, if you start to learn Portuguese, I'll start to run. So obviously that's I'm not sure. Yeah, it is a challenge for sure. I'm not sure. My languages are terrible anyway, so I've got to learn Portuguese in a year, and she's going to start to run. But it just shows, though, doesn't it, that when you've got that common ground, that you can actually make such a big change to people's lives. And the reason why running is so important for communities is it brings people together. Yeah, definitely. And encourages people to be supportive, whatever language, religion, sexuality you are. Everybody comes together and they support the power of sport.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And for Thomas, how was your day today? How did you find it?
Honestly, I'm extremely grateful to be here today. I was actually really ill last week. For about 4 days, I had a fever. So it wasn't actually clear if I was going to be able to actually join us today here at the marathon. So luckily, my illness subsided at the right time. So I'm extremely grateful that I was able to run today. Boston is so special. I love the Boston Marathon because the city itself is gorgeous. Yeah. The route, the different parts of the route, the different cities that you run through, it's an adventure the whole time. And there's so much respect I have, especially the Newton Hill area. Woo, hey, do we need to talk about that? I have to say, mad respect for everyone there. And Heartbreak Hill. And so I was surveying, I have to say, and I want to say, I was surveying people. I said, that's people's favorite part. I think their favorite mile. But the Boston Marathon is my top marathon. I love running it. Oh, and especially going past, I have to say my absolute favorite is Scream Hill, like by Wellesley. Yeah, by Wellesley College. I can't even. You can't beat it. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. It's just vibrations. It's the best place on the whole route, and I feel like that makes it so inclusive. I feel like everyone's a family that comes together during the Boston Marathon. You see people again and again and again, and this is the place where everyone kind of comes together. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. That part of the course, I think, was actually probably my favourite part as well.
I don't like the Newton Hills. Newton Hills at all.
Yeah,
I'm more of a flat, fast, long straight. When I see those hills and they just keep going on and on and on. And last year, I don't generally stop in a marathon, but last year I stopped on that heartbreak hill, like probably about 80 metres from the top. And I kicked myself for like the whole year. So this year I was like, I'm not bloody stopping. Yeah. So I made sure I got to the top, and it was such a I was like, I've kind of given myself a bit of a pat on the back to say that I'd actually done that, because there were so many challenges on the course. And yes, it is flat and fast for certain runners, as we know. Different kinds of runners have specialities around maybe an undulating course. Maybe a course like London or Chicago that is very flat, and for me as a runner that likes those long straights, this is a challenging course, but I think that's also what makes the event very unique. And you're a marathon runner when you run this course, because you've got to have done your hill training, and
definitely.
Also you've got to have actually looked at the course and know that those Newton Hills come between that 17 and 20, and if you're struggling around that period, then it's going to be really tough to get to the top of obviously Heartbreak Hill and then finish off your race. Yeah,
it is special though when you get to that top of that Heartbreak Hill.
It is, yeah.
And they make a big thing about it as well.
They do.
It is that moment where you sort of see it and it says you've made it, you've got to the top.
I always
of the
look,
hill.
when you're climbing at the start, I'm always looking for the banner.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'm always looking for it. I'm going, right, visual, that's only
exactly. Yeah, we're looking for that too. I have to say that's one of my favorite parts, is to see the banner.
Yeah.
Then you know you're in the last part of the hill.
Yeah.
You are almost there, and then it's downhill the rest of the way. You got nothing else,
exactly.
right?
It's kind of that straight down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and as you say, the crowd in around sort of mile 13, I sort of saw them and started high-fiving, and there was that many people. It was about like 100, 200, maybe more, that my watch started coming off. I was like, I'm going to have to stop.
Well, I'm going to tell you, coach, you need to concentrate on running and not high-fiving the crowd.
Yeah, that's true. For context, me and Richard do have the same coach. Liz is listening or watching this, and she'll have some feedback to share. She said to enjoy it, but also to go for it. I thought the weather was good, so which we did. We did a bit of both. So definitely. So obviously, both of you have run Boston before. How many times have each of you run it before? Fourth time for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
This is my fifth.
Fifth time. Well, that's a bit of
And
a
it's my best time today for me.
Really?
Yeah. So it's, best time. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Cheers. And I think that was because obviously my running IQ has definitely improved over the last couple of years around how I attack a race, and it's not kind of all out kind of push. You have to accept that marathon like Boston has its challenges.
Yeah.
So the experience that you have on the course is really good. Like Thomas, I'm sure, can tell you that if you've done an event 3 or 4 times, you know when the challenges come, and you know how to mentally as well as physically really dig in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And because you know the route, you've done this before, you know where the curves are, you know what's going to throw you for a curved ball, you know what's coming next. But it doesn't matter, it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
But the struggle isn't physical, it's mind.
Yeah.
It's in your mind. So I actually like running new courses a little bit better, just so I can see more. I can really take it in more. I'm like, oh, that's new. I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen that. But this being my 5th time in Boston, I have to say it's a struggle mentally sometimes to get through it.
It's definitely not a fast course for me with my disability as well, because of the sharp incline, decline. the sharp decline at the start,
Yeah.
I'm having to really kind of control how I circumduct with my legs.
Yeah, of course.
And then obviously the climbs as well. I'm having to work different mechanics to get up the hills. So when I actually run up hills, it's more backside mechanics, so hamstrings and glutes. And when I'm running downhill, I'm having to really lock in my core and then control my legs through my arms.
Right.
So hence the reason why I like flat and fast courses.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like, what makes Boston then so special to each of you? I know in different ways, perhaps.
I think Boston has always been special for me. Because here was the first deaf runner in Boston, and I actually have a deaf runner bib. I was for the first time I've been given this, and I'm hoping this is a ripple effect for any other runners. Boston, I have to say, we are looking always to make it as inclusive as possible. We want people. We want to figure out how to help others become more involved, and we want to make sure it's a welcoming environment for everybody. And so the people here in Boston are extremely friendly. And so when I'm running, I have this deaf runner bib on my back. Yeah. And a lot of people will come up to me and they'll touch me on the shoulder to let me know that they're in back of me, and they'll give me the deaf applause sign, which is your hands in the air waving. And I have to say, it gives me so much inspiration in that time. I just love it. And it's one of the reasons I love Boston.
And Thomas has had such a great impact on running and in Boston as well because of that. And he's a great advocate for his own community, but also inclusion, which I'm a great advocate as well. So yeah, well done, Thomas. You're an absolute star. Well done.
Definitely.
I would say the reason why I like Boston so much is because
I have to say, we're all human, and we're all here together in this. So thank you for the accolades, but not needed.
I worked in Connecticut for a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So travelled up to Boston quite a bit, and when I started my running journey in 2004. One of the races that I definitely wanted to come and do was obviously the Boston Marathon, because of obviously the history of the race and how when you come to these races and you really have an impact with your running, you can have a real ripple effect, like obviously Thomas has just talked about with his deaf running with the bib.
Yeah.
I think obviously somebody like myself that visibly you can see my disability. It's about obviously really promoting inclusion, but then also speaking for those individuals that you can't see their disability as well, and really amplifying the impact that running can actually have.
Absolutely, and both of you, are breaking barriers all the time in that, and wonderful to see.
Can I actually add on to that? And I have to say, all humans are equal. So here, especially in a marathon, everyone is equal here. Yeah.
Definitely. So, as I say, let's discuss that crowd today. Some of whom are here right now, and they were pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, no, the crowd was. Do you know what? I love seeing like young people's faces when they see something that they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that might be somebody that looks like one of their relatives or parents that are running. Somebody like myself, obviously running on prosthetics. Somebody running with a guide that's visually impaired.
Yeah.
That young people are like sponges, and they're having those experiences through obviously physical activity, and that is so inspiring because we want obviously young people to be more physically active. Sure. And running is definitely a sport that is fully inclusive, because not only can you do a variety of different events that are track events all the way up to 5k, all the way up to ultra marathons, you can also be involved in running events in vast amount of opportunities like administration, spectating, participation. So everybody can have a role, and without all the volunteers, which are so important to a race like today, we wouldn't be able to have an event. So I think a real big shout out for me, not only the spectators but the volunteers were incredible today. The water stations always had like another set of cheerleaders with the with the volunteers there, and I think they don't get enough credit.
100%, I agree. That as you say, they're sort of the unsung heroes that are out there. That, before anyone else, the crack of dawn, and then they're there still right now.
Over me when I'm dehydrated. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely. And how about for you? Like, what was the crowd like for you today, Thomas?
They were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have to say, they pushed me through the finish line for sure.
Yeah.
They were all of their happy faces and to see them so bright-eyed, really, for that Wellesley Scream Tunnel that we've talked about before, you feel like you're flying through it. Like you can't run and not feel that. So when you go through that mile, I have to say just wow. I have no other words.
Definitely. And as we already talked about, Boston is notoriously a bit of a tricky course for lots of people. Having both run it, a good few times, as you've already mentioned, what advice can you give to those looking to run it in the future?
I think from my point of view, it would be training specifics for this course. So investing a bit of time within that hill training, for sure. It can be quite cold at the start, so I think warm up again is so important to get your body used to. Obviously that fast start, that fast couple of kilometres, but also it's about patience as well. Sometimes when we are training, we're kind of really concentrating on our tempo runs, our long runs and our threshold runs, but we don't actually concentrate on being like very kind of meticulous at how we run. And when the gun goes off in a race, you see like people that normally wouldn't sprint the first 200 metres of their session, they go off just because they want a fast start.
And it's the rolling start down that hill. I was like,
exactly,
come out of nowhere. Like suddenly I was like, oh, we're actually starting right now.
And because you're going down that hill as well at some speed, you don't think you realise how much damage you're actually putting into your legs at an early point. And if you overreach early in Boston, you'll pay for it before obviously the hills, but then also you won't get the benefit of the downhill from 20 to the finish, because that downhill you can really pick up some time. I picked up some really good pace on that last 4 or 5 miles, because I knew that as soon as I got over Heartbreak Hill and made sure I was nice and relaxed, that I could really get into my running and start to run through the field, which I did.
Suddenly start to rein it in at that point. And for Thomas as well, like what do you what's your advice to somebody who's run it multiple times? What is your advice to somebody who's going to run it for the first time perhaps?
So I would say for the first 5 to 7 miles, don't run fast. I would echo what Richard was saying. You really have to conserve your energy, especially for the hills. To exactly what Richard had said. If you run fast, you're going to fail. You're going to wear yourself out, and you're going to kill your quads for sure. And so I think, just like Richard, like I said, had said, the training for the hills is vital, and the threshold training I think is vital, because that's something you have to keep practicing. And I have incredible amount of respect for those hills. You have to. So that's, I think, my main advice for them.
Definitely. And Richard, obviously you've just run over 100 marathons. Where are we at right now? Like this
105.
When I was writing, I was like, he's just done his 100th. But then now I was like, I definitely know you've been like raking them in since then.
So I've done 5 this year. So Doha, Dubai, Malta, Milan, obviously, and here.
Wow,
crazy, right?
Just a
lot of travelling, a lot of running, a lot of back-to-back races. And again, my training with my coach needs to echo that, so I'm able to recover between races, but also have the volume in my training to be able to cope with obviously coming back and then running a marathon at pace as well, which I've done. It's like breaking 3 hours for anyone multiple times is really tough, and last year I did it 14 times, so my training needs to be at that level where I'm able to kind of continually repeat that, and then obviously have confidence in the coach's style, but also know what works. So I've invested a lot of time in my recovery strategies over the last like 6 to 8 months, and that's really kind of put me in a great place that I know that when I get to the start line, yes, I'm going to have the nerves like everybody else, and I'm going to think, at 20 miles, am I going to be able to kick on like I normally do? The recovery strategies are really helping me have the confidence, and also my coach deliver the training that enables, obviously, the times that we want to push on to. And you alluded to, obviously, me breaking my world record in Milan. I did 2:40 there, and I think that's just like a starting position, really, for me. I as a 49-year-old, people have been asking me when I'm going to retire for the last 20 years. So to be able to be like
just getting started.
Exactly, to be in peak position, peak condition to kind of push on is really exciting. And I know that maybe I've got 3 or 4 times when I can really go for it again before I'm going to retire, but I think I feel kind of strong within my running at the moment.
Sure.
I've got obviously a confident running team around me, and it really helps because you get on that start line knowing you've done the work.
Yeah, of course, and obviously you've got a vast amount of experience across different distances as well, but having, as you say, now 105 marathons to your name, what keeps bringing you back to that distance?
And it's always difficult. I always say, like, a marathon isn't easy because you put that pressure on yourself to kind of go for it or send it or whatever you want to call it. And for me, it's about showing up every time, showing up in a city and giving the best form of yourself. Yeah. Because that's what the crowd expect, that they want kind of to see the best form of yourself. And I think it's a great the roads of each city are a great platform to express yourself, and hopefully that athletes such as myself, yourself, Ben, and Thomas, we're able to really make a social change to running through the performances, and also due to the power of communication, and it's so important because there's so many people out there that really do struggle with mental health and physical health conditions that stop them from being physically active.
Yeah.
And I think from a day like today, even if you pick up a little thing from one person, you can take that home and say, actually, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. Like the messages I've had in the 21 years I've been running have been incredible, and not necessarily from the disability community, just general people that feel that maybe sport wasn't for them. And because of not just myself but other people that have been running the marathons, it's really changed their perspective in life.
Yeah, absolutely. The impact that it has is just phenomenal, and everybody can get involved, as you say, within that, and you know, have different goals, different targets. Maybe not 105 marathons and multiple world records, but
and everybody in society's got a gift.
Yeah.
And it's about having people that can unlock that gift for you, but everybody can do their own marathon, and whether it's 5k, whether it's half marathon, or whether it's a marathon, you can do it. Believe, achieve some great and incredible things. If you've got people around you that obviously believe in you, but also you've got the opportunity and mindset to obviously have a go. And we need to have more opportunities for an inclusive environment, and that's why people like me and Thomas are really important within our communities as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And as I mentioned, you are a double Paralympic champion.
I run a bit, yeah.
And multiple world para-athletics champion.
Yeah.
And yet, that was actually in the 100 metres and 200 metre distance, right? So quite different to the 42,195 metres of marathon that you ran today and 104 other times. How did you make that transition?
Well, I started as a marathon runner, so I was just like a skinny marathon runner, and then obviously in 2005 when the Olympics and Paralympics was announced for London 2012, I actually sat with our coach Liz at a dining table, and we kind of made a plan to obviously get on the team to go, and it was from that moment really around going from a skinny marathon runner to like somebody with like massive guns that could run 200 metres as fast as I can, and I think obviously sport gives you opportunities, and it was a real opportunity for me. It was never about winning at the start, it was more about going to London 2012 and making a real statement and creating a legacy for myself. And it's not easy obviously to go from a marathon to 200 metres and win, and then obviously back, because I was 4 times world champion, 2 times Paralympic gold medalist. But really I'm a marathon runner, and marathon running's like my thing. But what I do say is that the kind of real focus that I had for the 200 metres in delivering that performance, I still have in the marathons. Obviously the visualisation that you have to have and the team around you becomes more important, because obviously there's so many small 1%ers that you can have an impact on your performance.
Definitely. And as you sort of touched on there, like being able to do those different distances, there was obviously a decision that you had to make. Is there a frustration perhaps for you that maybe the marathon distance doesn't feature at the Paralympics?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously as a runner that really is passionate about the impact that the Paralympics has, but the important thing is that it's accessible to everybody. And marathon running is accessible to everybody, whatever background you're from, whatever your economic background is. So it's not a ticketed event. You literally can look out your window and see a marathon and be impacted. And that's why I gravitate towards the marathons more than the Paralympics. But the Paralympics obviously offered me some fantastic opportunities. But the marathon is something that I'm really passionate about, because I know that when I fully commit to a race, I finish, I'm absolutely knackered, but I know that I've given my best.
Yeah.
And I think that's what marathon runners really want. They want to give their best to be successful.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously with that in mind, would you like to see them perhaps bring it into the
Yeah, I'd love more events in the Paralympics, but I think it's more events for everybody, not just for people with my disability. And also, it needs to be more inclusive. I think the Paralympics isn't inclusive, and that's a real problem. Obviously, for different impairment groups, like the deaf community don't have events at the Paralympics, and that's a real issue.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really sad, actually.
Yeah, definitely as well. How do you sort of feel about that as well, Thomas, in terms of not having those?
I mean, when I was small, when I was a little boy, people would tell me that you can't do things. You cannot do big things. And I always had to show them and prove them wrong.
Sure.
So that's the reason that I kept running, because I wanted to show people who told me that I couldn't, that I can.
Yeah.
And that big things can happen because I do things. It's the same with my first 6-star medal. You know, same with the first time I ever got a deaf runner bib on my back.
Yeah.
Those steps seem really small, but now it's happening and the impact is enduring, and that's what I'm working for. And I'm really hoping that one day we will have a deaf runner category. I'm hoping that we'll actually have a category for that population to show the respect that they've earned to the deaf community and the deaf runners who participate, so they finally can feel like they're respected and that they're seen and they're valued. I think that is of the utmost importance.
Definitely.
You know, I don't want to feel like I'm the only one and I'm left out because I'm deaf. Why? Why is that even something that anyone would feel? We're all runners. We're all here together.
Yes.
And we've all earned the value of being a runner. We're all the same, you know, just like Richard was talking about at the Paralympics. And here in the marathon, being a runner.
Yes.
With prosthetics, being a deaf runner, there's no difference between us. We both ran the same race. We both finished across the same line.
Absolutely.
And we just have hope. I have hope that one day it will happen. We'll have a deaf category, and the deaf runners in the community, I have to say right now, are growing. This year for the Boston Marathon, we had 12 deaf runners. Before, I was the only one. So yeah, now we had 12. It's growing.
Dang.
And in Berlin, they're going to have 36 deaf runners there in Berlin. Yeah, and you know, and where's the deaf runner category? Why is that not a thing? I mean, obviously we have the mass.
Yeah.
It's about time to make things like that happen.
I couldn't agree more, definitely. And I think...
Yeah, I will, for sure. And I'm never going to stop fighting for that.
Well, seeing what you've done already, Thomas, I'm sure it's just a matter of time that you're going to continue to break that barrier, just like you have already. And obviously for you, today is your fourth 6-star, you've already got 4 6-star medals, you're on your way to getting your 5th. Why are the Abbott World Marathon Majors so important to you?
Because I can raise awareness for the deaf community.
Yep.
There is so much social media out there that can make the impact that we're looking for. So when I'm running, people can see, oh, there's a deaf runner. He can see with my deaf runner bib on the back, and people will ask, how did he get that? What is that? And so that awareness grows and that curiosity grows, and I'm telling more people, I'm educating more people, and it's so important for people to know about deaf runner, and obviously that bib is actually for safety. So people know who I am, people know that I can't hear them when they're coming around me. But again, why I'm running is because of that awareness. And I know I can make a big impact for the community at large, all over the world. And I'm hoping it's going to be opening more doors in the future for the deaf community and deaf runners.
Definitely, and it is. We can see it right here. As you say, you were the only one running it before. Now there's 12, and then in Berlin there's 36. So you were continuing to break those barriers, and you will continue to do so. And for you, could you ever have imagined, earning a 6-star medal, or perhaps even earning a marathon medal when you were a child, when you were growing up?
No, that was definitely not in my dreams when I was a kid. I was always struggling against those barriers growing up, and it was a really tough time, I have to say. I have a lot of work I do with my eyes on a daily basis, and running helps me, I found, be able to decompress. And it gave me power, it gave me authority over my day. So when I'm running and I got a medal for it, I would go home to work, and I'm opening the door to my classroom, and my deaf students see me standing there with a medal, and you can see the sparkle in their eyes. It's giving me goosebumps right now, I have to say. And I have to, they see me, and they see that my students see me do that, and they're like, oh, wow, big things can happen, and I can do that. If he can do that, I can do that. Yeah. And they look at me, and they're like, I want to be like him. And I have to say that is such a massive impact on all of their lives and mine. Yeah. And that is the gift that they give me, so it helps me keep running.
Absolutely.
And do race after race after race. It's like symbiosis, right?
It makes it a reality, right? It makes it believable, and it makes it achievable for those who, before would not have been able to see it. And both of you do that in such a fantastic way. And how did you originally get into running? And also, what does training look like for you on a day-to-day basis now?
So I used to play tennis. I used to be a tennis player.
Sure.
For a very long time. It was about 30 years I played tennis. And then I went to college, and I worked a lot. I didn't really have any time for tennis. So I was like, okay, I'll try running. Let's see how this goes. That was just a day thing. I was going to, okay, let's try this. And one day I was like, okay, I guess we'll try a marathon. And then when I finished my 4th marathon, people started noticing. And they were like, are you deaf? Wow, and you can run a marathon? Wow. And they started telling me that I was an inspiration to them. And that kept me going.
Definitely. And of course it did, and it inspires so many people, and it continues to. And as I say, what does it look like for you in terms of on a daily basis? How does training work for you? Like, are there any obstacles that you find along the way?
What's the last part?
Any obstacles that you might find along the way?
So when I get up about 4 a.m. This is my training schedule in the morning. So I'm a deaf teacher, if anyone was curious. So I start work at 8 in the morning. So for me to be able to train, I have to get up early, meaning 4 in the morning. So that's when my opportune run time is. And then I'll go home, I take a cold shower, and then I go to work.
Wow.
And so that's what's giving me the energy. Because after work, I have to tell you, I'm so incredibly tired working with those kids all day. So yeah, I get up at 4 a.m. and that's my training schedule, my regimen.
Wow, it's incredible. And it shows the determination and, drive that you have to achieve these things, and you're not going to let anything stop you along the way. And recently you were honoured by the City of Essen and became a 2-time Guinness World Record holder. What do you take away from these kind of moments?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really helps me to maintain the hope to open doors for other runners.
Yeah.
So, because I didn't have anyone to be like that for me. So I'm helping to kind of be that person to symbolize and be that person they can look up to. And again, it's that inspiration that I'm looking for deaf youth specifically. That's the population I'm really hoping to target, to make sure I want to inspire them to know that they can do these things too. And it's such a big impact for them.
Wow,
that's what I'm hoping.
That really is. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? For both of you, you've achieved so much. And with those recognitions that you just mentioned for yourself, Tom, and obviously for you, Richard, being a member of the British Empire, what are some of the standout moments so far in each of your running journeys? Perhaps starting with you, Rick.
London 2012, obviously, winning in front of 80,000, that was pretty cool.
Not a bad day.
Not a bad day, that's it. It could have gone wrong though, I tell you. After the first 80 metres and being 8th, when you're expected to win. And then I think obviously that first marathon in New York and how transformative that was to unlock that potential when like people obviously see you as somebody with a disability and they don't see you as a person, and I think that's still a real problem within society. I think I've had so many like incredible moments on my 105 marathon journey or whether it's been on the track, and I think it's more when you see that other people relate to some of those challenges and you're able to unlock their potential, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And with the performance that we do, it's part of that. Even obviously going to Milan last week and doing what I did there, it gave me the hope that you can go to new cities and actually really kind of relate to other people's challenges in their life, and hopefully, as somebody of our age, still be relevant to the youth of today. And I think that's the reason why disability is so powerful, because through challenges and through seeing is believing, we can really change people's perceptions of what equality, diversity, inclusion is.
Yeah.
And ironically, obviously, I used to teach, Thomas teaches now as well, and I think we're all mentors and teachers within our own right, and the platforms that we have to make that social change are so powerful. And I utilise all my performances as though it's a platform to make that social change. So I always try and work within the communities that I do compete, because you want to have that sustained impact. You don't want to just go into a city and just run a race, take away a medal, that self-gratifying moment. You want to have that impact that really kind of gets young people understanding that they have the potential to believe that anything's possible.
Yeah, 100%. You can see that. And for yourself, Thomas, has there been any sort of stand-up moments for you?
I want to say my first marathon in Petra, Jordan.
Right, okay.
So I was alone. I didn't know anybody there. I had never run a marathon before, but I was like, I'm going to go run this marathon. And I actually finished 4th. So the people there were like, oh, wow, who's this guy? And they were like, oh, come join us. And they were so welcoming. So I have to say, and that's another one of the pieces of the puzzle that kept me running. There were so many magical moments throughout my entire experience so far. For the Big 5 in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I ran with the animals there, I have to say, they're just around you, It's in live time. So, and I see that really you can build bridges with the deaf community and with the non-deaf, or what we call the hearing community. And that's something I'm actively always trying to do. I'm trying to bring them together into one world. Yeah. I have to say, everything has been so special. I don't know if I can pick just one moment, but I mean, the people are phenomenal and so open-minded. I have to say, everyone I've met has been just great, and it's just been fantastic. Yeah.
So much to take away from it, isn't it? Obviously, going forward, we've discussed some of the barriers already, but what are some of them that you still see, and maybe do you feel like there's progress being made, and if so, if you don't, then perhaps what do you want to see happen in the future? Yeah,
there's lots of barriers and obstacles for people with disabilities still to participate within a format like a marathon, and I think we all need to be realistic to say that won't change overnight. But when you look at the marathon community that's running on the road, is that truly representative of all the communities that we all are part of? No, clearly not, and that's a real challenge, and I think that's what we aspire to change, to have the marathon community to be representative and to have those opportunities, so that young people, whatever background that they come from, whatever disability that they have, or whatever economic background they have, they feel they've got a place within the marathon community, and it doesn't become an exclusive opportunity of participation. It should be an inclusive one. And the reason why I'm so passionate about that is because what I spoke about before is that if it isn't fully inclusive and representative, then when people are watching the marathons, they're not seeing themselves. Seeing is believing, and me, like Thomas, when we were growing up, we didn't see people like us or associate to people like us because they weren't in the public eye, or they didn't have the opportunities that we are making now for others. And with the marathon community at the moment, it's getting so big, and there's a lot of noise around technology and all these exciting races where I think the inclusion element gets lost, and for me, inclusion should start from the planning process, and it shouldn't be an add-on. It shouldn't be tokenistic. It should be genuine. It should be well thought out, but also include people from those communities to be representative. And when I first set my foundation up, I've got my own foundation, the Richard Whitehead Foundation, in 2019, I believe. I wanted to really reach out to those hard to reach communities that haven't got those opportunities, and whether they're in the disability group or not, I really wanted to kind of make that change. And the thing with equality, diversity, inclusion, we all have a responsibility to be inclusive, and we all have a responsibility to be able to have the skills and tools to be able to communicate with a wider audience, because that's something that not only enriches our own lives, it means that if you're a business owner, that you're then able to reach a different community that then can enable them to obviously have a more successful business. And the same with education, and the same with participation. So sport has a great opportunity to be fully inclusive, but we still have a long way to go.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. And for yourself, Thomas, as well, what would you maybe like to see happen in the future to be able to make it more accessible as a sport?
I want to say that the biggest issue for the deaf community is the communication. Mm-hmm. Hearing people alone, forget about that. That's just a really factual thing that happened. So for example, in social media, people are talking on videos, right?
Yeah.
But people often forget to put the closed captions on.
Yeah.
So deaf individuals can't access whatever they're putting on social media.
Sure.
So we always feel left out in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's really just a clear example of how feeling left out. And the deaf community, we're here. We're here. We're not going away. And so we need to make marathons more inclusive. We need to make things like social media, even when you're even just more inclusive by closed captions, having an interpreter like we do today, and making things more visual. Instead of everything being audio based. So for example, like the gun at the start line, how can we make that light instead of just audio so people can see it? And we need leaders in the race community to make those changes. And that's a big hope on my end that does happen. Definitely. There are so many changes that need to happen. If we want to bring the deaf community in with the hearing community and make it one full community, we do have to break those barriers down, and it starts with communication.
And one thing the wider community does forget is that these problem-solving solutions that Thomas has just spoke about have a real impact on society generally. It brings people together, and the amount of technology that we all use at the moment that has been developed because of the challenges through the disability community, like Alexa, things like that were developed from the disability community initially, we don't realise that the disabled community and the challenges and obstacles that they have to overcome have a massive impact, a wider impact on society.
Absolutely, and you've sort of already touched there on some of the things that people can do to support and to get involved. And for yourself, Richard, like what are some of the things maybe you think would be helpful that people maybe listening to this or watching this can do?
I advocate, like I said before, around volunteering is so important, and volunteering in different disability groups to get to understand what those challenges and obstacles are. Yeah. But then also, if you're looking to set up new events, whether that's marathons or running events, then also look at the community around where you're actually going to have that event, and then get the community really involved so that more of the community feel part of that process. And I feel that's a real great opportunity for growth for everybody, but also that it then brings a community into a big event that makes that event so special. An event like Boston Marathon has took years and decades to be obviously the event it is today, but we shouldn't have to go through decades of challenges and obstacles to be inclusive. And I think that's something that if we're looking at new events or or new opportunities for disabled people to participate. Disabled people need to be front and centre of those decisions, and the offset of that is that it's more inclusive for everybody. One of the things that will impact every person on the planet is that we'll all have a disability, or we'll all have a debilitating time in our life, which means that we will have to have time off work, we won't be able to get out of bed, we won't have to go to work, etc. So why wouldn't you upskill yourself in some of these challenges and obstacles that disabled people go through? And we sometimes need to think about that before it actually happens to us.
Definitely, absolutely, be ahead of the game. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, upskill yourself.
Do. And that actually brings me to my final question, and we ask this question to everybody who comes on the podcast. And what would you perhaps say to somebody who looks at you both and the astonishing feats that you've each achieved, and will, I'm sure, continue to, and says, I could never do that, I can't even run for the bus?
I run it, right. And I can't run for the bus. Well, I can when I've got my running legs on. I think for me it's always about making those positive behaviours, having those positive behaviours. And running's part of that, obviously, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think young people now in society, instead of going out and socialising in a public house with not good social behaviours, now are actually getting on the road, developing their social groups, and actually investing in themselves. And we're seeing a massive benefit of young people's mental health and physical health through running. So I would say, for me, it's about one step at a time. Taking the plunge as well, trying new things and meeting new people, because not only will it benefit you, but it will also benefit everybody within your social group as well. And whether you're a father or a mother, you've then got obviously children that look up to you, and that you want them to feel proud of you. So being part of a new activity or a running phase in your life, I think it really does show the youth of tomorrow, the leaders of tomorrow, how life should be, and that's full of good behaviours.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And for yourself, Thomas, what would you say to somebody who said that to you in terms of, I could never do that, I can't even run for the bus?
I would say run for the bus. Try it, because running can be so amazing. And there's no one who can't run. So that socialization that Richard was talking about, it's how you meet new people. This is a great place to do that. Sometimes you see and you're like, oh, I remember you from before. And
so
or you see someone running that you have something in common with. That's the impact we're looking for, and that can be inspirational. You could inspire someone else, and that's what I would tell someone. So it's amazing things can happen just running for the bus.
Absolutely, and you both inspire me and inspire so many people around, so I really do appreciate you both being here today and coming on, and to thank you for that.
Well done, Ben.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody for listening to this epic episode of Running for the Bus, live from the 130th Boston Marathon Mile 27 post-race party here at City Hall Plaza. Thank you to our guests today, Richard Whitehead, MBE, and Thomas Eller, as well as a team at the Boston Marathon and our deliriously mad challengers. We'd also like to thank the Deaf Athletes and Sport Foundation based in Boston for their support with today's episode, and our American Sign Language interpreter, Tsana Dimanin. You don't have to wait long for our next episode, because we're recording it live this very Saturday, April 25th, on the main stage of the London Marathon Run Show 2026 at 3 p.m, and you will be able to see us with special guests Johnny Davies, Tasha Thompson, and Rob Douto. We'd love to see you there in the audience, but if you can't make it, you'll be able to catch that very special episode when it drops on the morning of Friday, May 1st. And don't forget, you can listen back or watch this episode on Friday morning coming up, just before London. Don't forget to head to the Kelleher DMC Insta now to find the tread playlist, the Rookie Runners training plan, and lots more. If you've enjoyed the show, well, what are you waiting for? Hit follow and you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. We'd also love to hear from you, so drop us a message or leave a review. See you next time on Running for the Bus, where you can listen and watch on the run, on the bus, or whilst you're running for it.